Hello everyone, I'm Rupam, founder and CEO of Aculi Labs, creator of Lifers, and author of the book Intimacy Lost for Man. Welcome you all to the fifth episode on intimacy. And in this episode, we are going to learn about the energy, positive and negative energy. In the last episode, that is episode 4, we learned about what is energy, what is power, how relationship is an engine and machine, and how to drive this relationship with the energy. We learned that we get energy from food. The energy is primarily converted into four forms, that is the glucose, carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and based on that we get power in our muscles, in brain, and that's how we give that we participate in the relationship. And we also understood that conversation is kind of the electrical current that flows between two person in a relationship, and both the sides of the relationship has to function pretty well. In the second episode, we learned about the laws, rules, and code, and we understood that laws are the principle that remains constant. One such law was the law of thermodynamics, which says energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can just transform from one form to another form. And we use this law of thermodynamics in our relationship in order to understand why energy has to go from why energy has to flow between two persons, two individuals in a relationship. What is the advantage of it? We also then understood, how this energy law then becomes a law in a relationship, not like your political law or constitution. It's a law which doesn't change. We also learn the difference between emotions and feelings, and in yesterday's episode we saw how emotion brings a different form of energy and feelings requires a different form of energy. So in this episode, that is in episode 5, we are going to talk about positive energy and negative energy. In the modern day, again, words are diluted, nobody bothers to look into the meaning, and then they just say, that person has got a lot of positive energy, the person has a lot of negative energy, it feels bad. So what really is a positive energy or negative energy? Energy cannot be negative, can it really be? It can be either zero or some numbers. Either something has no energy or something has some energy. So what is this all about positive and negative energy? Uh, the form of energy, it's an absolute number. So why do people say that particular person has a positive energy? Why do people say particular person has a negative energy? What is the purpose? So we will try to understand this factor. Okay, all right. So human body is an electrical and chemical machine. Okay, so our heart is an electromagnetic machine. Heart beats, it pumps blood, the lungs intakes oxygen, and that oxygen through the blood is pumped to the rest of the body by heart. In the same way, once all the tissues and muscles takes the oxygen out, the blood goes into the vein through the capillaries, and then from the vein, heart again pulls that blood, and again then the oxygen that is coming from the lungs gets mixed. So heart is always contracting and expanding, contracting and expanding. So when it is contracting. Obviously, the blood from the vein is coming and entering into the heart, and when it is expanding, it is pushing the blood, releasing the blood to the body. Now, this is a electrochemical or electromechanical engine. The heart is an electromechanical engine. Now what happens is, when heart is a muscle, and then if you suddenly pinch here, you'll release the hand like this, right? Like this. So whenever there is an electrical shock, or don't try it at home, if we have some shock, something like when we switch on the gas light, suddenly we pull this out. So whenever there is an electrical shock, there is a contraction. So in the heart, there is something called SA node, sinoatrial node, which acts like the natural the charging of the heart. So it generates a charge, and the heart gets contracts. There is an electrical current that flows through the upper atrium, lower ventricle, and so on and so forth. So we're not going to go deep down into that now. What happens is that, obviously, the charge that flows through a certain path in the heart, and the contraction and the expansion takes place. Now, for the contraction, sodium plus ions has to enter into the cells. So whenever there is a sodium plus ion that goes into the cell, so suppose this is the size of a ion, neutral atom. Okay, so whenever in the neutral atom an electron comes in, it becomes a negatively charged. So when the electron comes in, the atom gets bigger in size. Okay, and whenever one electron is releases, it gets smaller in size, and then it becomes a positive ion. So positive ion, small in size, gets one electron, become normal in size, gets another electron, gets bigger in size. So the more electron it gets, the atom gets bigger in size. Will you remember? So negative charge of an atom means it has extra electrons. So in atom, there is a nucleus inside. All the matters, all the elements in this universe are made up of atoms. They are the smallest unit. In the atom, there is a nucleus inside. In the nucleus, there is a positively charged proton and inert neutron. So proton and neutron carries a core. There is no charge in the neutron, but it plays a major role. And then electron surrounds it. That's how an atom is. And the outside the nucleus, there are electrons which rotate. Right? It is the electrons which can go from one atom to another atom, pretty much like very unstable. More electrons can come in, electrons can go out, something like that. So whenever an extra electron enters into the atom goes bigger, because it has to accommodate extra member, right? It goes bigger. So when you go to market, you take more food than suggested, your bag gets expanded. So the same way the electron gets expanded, and then when the electron comes out, the atom gets smaller in size, and then when it gives away all the electrons and only core is remain, it gets much more smaller. And then for few of the atoms, they also break this core, and that's how the atomic energy or nuclear energy is created. All right. So whenever the heart has to contract, obviously contraction is smaller. So smaller means less electron. So we have sodium plus ion that goes inside the cells, enabling the heart to contract. Then when the heart expands, again the expansion, so it should have extra electron, and that's why potassium minus ion enters into the heart. So our heart works as a battery: potassium, sodium, potassium, sodium, potassium, sodium, potassium, right? Sodium plus potassium minus, sodium plus potassium minus. So sodium and potassium therefore acts as the battery to the heart. Now let's talk about how a battery works. A plain galvanic cell is something like you have a copper at one side, zinc at the other side. Copper is put in the copper sulfate, zinc is put in the zinc sulfate, and there is a sodium chloride inert bridge. So just like the nucleus of an atom, you have to have inert component. So there is this bridge, okay, that acts like the inert one, and then from the negatively charged, which has got more electrons, the electrons flows towards the positively charged. That's how a galvanic cell works. So almost the same principle of the galvanic cell is true. So the galvanic cell follows the law of electricity, whereby a positively charged electrode gets electron from a negatively charged electrode if there is a conductor in between them, and then there is an inert uh, what do we call the salt bridge. All right, so in this principle the cell happens, and there is a current which goes from the atom that has got a lot of electrons from the atom which has got less number of electrons. Of course they try to balance, and that's how our heart works. Okay, positive charge, that is giving out electrons and becoming smaller, and then expand, taking the electrons and becoming bigger. Sodium, potassium, sodium, potassium. So expansion, so as the heart beats faster, so when you are running, heart is beating very fast, right? If you are running very fast, the heart is beating very fast, so you require more switching on, more times the heart has to switch on. So there is a large amount of sodium ions which is entering into the cell time and again, time and again, time and again. So heart is getting much less time to rest, so it's pumping. Your heart rate is something like 120, 130. You are running, and it's more or less the muscles, heart muscles are being pumped by the sodium plus ion. Okay, that's an extremely overworking of the heart. Now suppose you are relaxing. Suppose I hold my breath and I sit in this fashion. Now you see heart is just doing like this. So after switching on, it is remaining switch off for a long period of time. So heart rate has come down, which means that switch on. Like this. Okay, so more amount of time potassium minus ion are staying in the muscles of the heart. So when you are running, more amount of time positive ions are staying, positive atoms are staying, ions, not atoms, atoms are inert. So when they have extra electron or don't have or have less electrons, they become ions. So whenever you are overworking the muscles, not only heart, the other part, something like kidney, a lot of other muscles, so body mechanics is quite complex. So let us understand from that perspective. So when you are overworking more amount of time, there are positive ions that are being inside your cell, and when you are less working, when you are relaxed, there are more uh, negative ions as positive ions. So your body works as both positively charged as well as negatively charged, and then there is an electrolyte which is the salt bridge, and that's why whenever you are tired, saline water is given. It's like filling that electrode, and then the body has the sodium and potassium ions, which then the battery gets completed. Your body gets rejuvenated whenever you are tired. You take glucose water, or whenever you are going through a medical process, they give you saline water, the reason being to energize the body. Okay, so at any given instance of time, your body does have an it acts like an electrical circuit in itself, because the muscle movement, just to pull up, you have to have some work. For doing anything, you require to supply the electrical energy in that part. So if you are holding it in this fashion, or if you are holding it in this fashion, there is a different kind of current, different amount of current which is being supplied. So if I am sitting like this, if I'm relaxed, if my shoulders are relaxed, and I become slow, something like this. If I'm talking slowly, I of course require less amount of energy. So of course less amount of sodium goes in, positive ion goes inside my um, muscles, cells. But if I'm talking very fast, something like this, and if I am overreacting, if I'm overthinking, if I'm trying to become extremely fast in terms of talking, then of course my body requires more electrical conduction. At that time period, a lot of sodium ions is, or a lot of positive charge. Let us now come out of the sodium and potassium and say a lot of positive charge is going inside the cells and the muscles, because I'm talking a lot. So a lot number of times my mouth, my tongue are to operate, a lot of electrical current has to flow through them, because they need power, not energy. They need power, and so a lot of electrical charge has to go to them, and therefore a lot many number of time positive charge has to go inside them. The problem is that even though even though when we work a lot, we have a lot of positive charge, but in some cases people become extremely driven by people are always driven by their brain, of course. But a lot of people has a lot of envy, jealousy, hatred, overthinking, bad ideas, the scheming, planning. All the time they remain insecure, and those brains always acting extraordinarily high. Heart rate is remaining very high. The body is getting tired, because it's not meant to work that hard. It's not meant for that. It's overthinking what people say, what I'm going to do. I should do this in life. There is always a plan, there is always a scheme, there is always a fear that is going on inside the brain. In those situations, heart rate remains very high all the time. So if I'm sitting like this, in the Zen mode, then of course I expect my heart to be slowing down, right? Relax mode. I expect my brain to be slow down, relax mode. But imagine there are people who, even while talking to you normally, are scheming and planning, and trying to find out how to game you, how to take advantage of you. Their brain is always active. Even if they are sitting and listening, they're never listening to you. They're not listening to your stories. They're rather waiting for their turn to answer you. They're always indulged in their own world, always thinking, and always planning. Now, such a situation, heart rate remains higher. The kidney doesn't get enough time to filter out the bad things in the body, so the body stinks. Okay, we call those as negative person. Why negative person? It's because they require positive charge inside their body, inside the cells, muscles, and tissues, particularly in the brain. So you may know that whatever food we take, 30% of the food goes to the brain. Okay, even though brain's weight is hardly 3% of the body, it takes about 30% of the weight. So imagine if the brain, 30% of your body is always sodium plus iron, then how does a normal one go smaller? How does one normal atom goes smaller in the contraction? By giving out the electrons, right? So when the positive ions are going inside their cells, the negative ions are, the electrons are staying outside those cells. There is a lot of free electrons, and the free electrons are unstable. Such people are called negative people. There is a lot of free electrons always, and therefore when you interact with such people, when you go and talk to people who are always scheming, who are scolding, aggressive, insecure, you feel like getting exhausted. You feel like you have no power to work. You feel exhausted. You feel down. You cannot get up. The reason being that because they need so much of plus ion that they give up, they shed those electrons to you. How more electrons you have gotten, cells have expanded, and so you feel tired. It's an expansion mode. You feel tired. You are overburdened with a lot of electrons, and after some times your electrical circuit doesn't work. That's why with these people you feel like they have consumed all your energy. What they're doing in reality is they're using this as a, because we know any relationship is like a machine. Any machine runs with power. Power is nothing but electrical flow. So the electrons are coming from them to you, right? Because they have excess electrons that is coming out of their body to you. So you are working like the anode. They're working like the anode. You are working like the cathode. So from the anode to cathode, the electrons are coming, and that's how your relationship is working. But they are shedding so much of electron, it's almost like a short circuit. So recall, there is another law, which is Ohm's law. Current is equal to voltage divided by resistance. There is no resistance. This person, he just comes in and bombards with the words. He just offloads everything onto you. There is no resistance from your part. You are just the receiver, and he just gives out everything, vents out all the angers. So venting out all the angers means giving out all the excess electrons, shedding all the electrons, because he is extremely aggressive, he is extremely energetic, he feels so over energetic. It's a bad energy. See, it's so energetic, he wants to give out all his energy to you. He's just bombarding you. and then you are consuming. So the resistance is nearly, there exists no resistance. So current is equal to voltage by resistance. If resistance is equal to zero, current is infinite. So it's almost like you are feeding a short circuit charge. However smaller the voltage is, when the resistance becomes zero, current becomes infinite. And that's why with these people, you feel like walking on the eggshell, because you do not know when they may hurt. And that's exactly like if you take a gas lighter. Don't do that. Just imagine and just pull the charge. A very high voltage charge is hitting you, and it's like a high voltage charge hitting inside your body all the time. Body can recover up to certain level. Body has the recovery process, but after certain period, the body cannot recover anymore from those charges. If you keep on hitting the electrical charge all the time inside your body, excess electrons are coming. Your body cannot shed off those electrons. It's just taking those electrons, but there's no way that it is going out. So that's how damages are being done in the internal world of your body. They are giving you the electrons. They're negative people. You are receiving the electrons. You are positive people. So who can receive the electron? A relaxed person. Right? More potassium, less amount of electrons circulating, and then more free electrons, because a lot of positive charge is going inside the muscles, brain muscles. So such people with whom you feel exhausted, even if you don't understand the science, understand they're doing a damage to you. They're shedding all the charge. You're like that receiver. You cannot become a receiver without a recharge. The switching is very important, because heart has an on-off switch. It's not like your heart always remain expanded and his heart always remain contracted, isn't it? His heart is beating like this and your heart is beating like this, and then what is happening is, he's the negative person and you are the positive person, and the charge is coming like this. It's a mechanic of a cell. There is a current, and that's why that relationship is so intense. Even if you wish, you just cannot seem to get out of that relationship. It feels so intense, only up to the time where your body cannot take any more electron. At that time, the cancerous cells gets developed inside your body. Your body is filled with excessive electrons. Slowly your heart rate also goes higher. You feel like you feel kind of charge whenever you see this person coming nearby you. Your heart rate gets increased. Your skin gets dry. There's a lot of electrons now. Now your brain is also always planning, thinking, scheming how to avoid this person. That's how you also become a very negative person, because they are continuously generating this aggression inside them and shedding the electrons to everybody around them. All these people who are taking, after a certain time, they also become, their heart rate increases. The need for more amount of positive ion inside their heart increases. The body is filled with electrons. There is no electrical balance. They cannot take any more electron, because the body just cannot take it. Once it's an electrical principle. Once a charge, both the charge are same. Once you are as negative as this person, there is no electrical current, and then you start disliking this person. Now you go out and create a relationship with another cool, relaxed, appearing person. You then try to find a person who will give you the positivity. But in real, you are trying to shed your electrons back into this person. Once he consumes enough of your negativity, which is all the stories, all the thinkings that you're dumped, slowly your brain has stopped thinking lesser, stopped feeling lesser. This person is now thinking, feeling, getting triggered. You have done that. And then you don't feel that person anymore because he's now like you. The rule is you can't feel people like you. So a negative energy is simply a person with an excessive electrons to be given out to the other, who has got high heart rate, who is always scheming, planning, overthinking, worrying, thoughts. That's why it is called negative thoughts, because they're so intense that the brain doesn't get any time for relaxation. Even before they sleep, they don't think about the sleep. They think, tomorrow morning again I'm going to go out and I'm going to teach this person a lesson. While eating, they're not enjoying the food, they're not letting their body to relax. How can my brother do that? I'll take away the property from him. They're scheming. The brain is not relaxed, it is not thinking about the food. Negative person. Those negative people, they're negative because they have a lot of extra electrons. Because their body requires a lot of electrical current. Excessive amount of electrical current is required to be supplied inside their body. Extreme amount of charge, voltage increases significantly. They require, they're the anodes, and they require cathodes to keep those electrons, to dump their thoughts, feelings, worries, concerns. They want to dump it on somebody. Dumping means giving out the electrons so that they feel relaxed. And that's how. That's why such people are called people with negative energy. People with so much of negative energy. If you go closer to them, just their body language, the way they see you, the way they smell, the way they walk, because your brain is trained from at least 2 million years to detect such kind of scheming individual. So even though you may not be knowing it consciously, but your brain can detect those signs and your brain starts getting worried itself. That's why even though a person appears polite, many a times you feel something wrong with the person because your brain just starts activating neurons very fast. Then there is a lot of electrical activities that goes inside your body also. Then you slowly start becoming negative. That's what is negative energy. And negative energy is simply a person who is overthinking, scheming, jealous, envious, hateful, unsatisfied with life, dysregulated, out of mood swings, out of hatred, always thinking bad about his life or her life. And that's the reason often in a relationship, because it's like a battery, man gets entangled with such girls with extreme amount of negative energy, extreme amount of jealousy, extreme amount of hate, envy, scheming. They're always overthinking. They appear very, very energetic. No, you require them if you are exceedingly positive. But slowly we will learn How to balance that? Well, in general, girls have to be negative because you need extra electrons for the chemical reactions. All right, because girls are the creators, their body has to have excess electrons. You have to transfer your energy, so they want to shape those electrons to you. And the modern day, pretty much even men have that kind of a negative energy, and so relationship do not survive because you have not learned how to manage those charges. In order to learn this more detail, just look inside the book Intimacy Laws for Men. Of course, females are incapable of creating an intimate relationship. It's a man who has to create the intimacy and the females who has to enjoy the intimacy. So this is the reason you have a lot many number of negatively charged individuals going around in the society, which are to be which is to be looked into. I hope you understood scientifically and philosophically what is the difference between energy, what is the difference between a positive energy and a negative energy, what is meant by a positive person and a negative person. And you don't have to avoid the negative persons to serve a purpose, because if you don't have a negative person, if you're exceedingly positive, then whom you'd give the electrons to? You cannot give the electrons to anyone, right? However, understanding what is your energy level and exactly how much of negative energy you require is needed. Then when you both get neutral, then how to again re-energize yourself. This is also very important, and this is science, this is law. This is not some silly 10 points how to improve your relationship. Whenever things have been governed by science and laws, there is no shortcut. You have to understand the science, you have to understand these laws, or else you're pretty much gone. Alright, there is no such things as healthcare and relationship management. Everything is governed by laws which are consistent. You have to just understand those laws. I hope that you learned something new today. And as I have been suggesting that, I'm pretty sure that you have been watching these videos with one friend or the other with you. You both are sharing. In the WhatsApp also you can share, two of you in the chat window you can share, and you can then learn together. It will give you a different feelings. In the audio, those who are listening to the podcast, you can just 2 to 3 friends, you can just start the podcast, and you can listen. So whenever 2 or 3 of you are doing the same task, your energy happens to be at the same level, and because you are learning always slows down your heart rate. That's why people say keep learning, because whenever you are learning, it's not the learning that does that. I have a slow heart rate now. I'm teaching you, I'm giving you all the knowledge. So I have a physiology, and your body is so wonderful. We operate at such a quantum level that your brain and body can pretty much detect that calmness inside the teacher, and they then reflect inside your body the reason, and you can pretty much check it. You can take your heart rate, measure your resting heart rate before you start the podcast or video, and then after it ends, you can just take your heart rate and you will see a fall in the heart rate, more relaxation, brain gets calm because you learn something. And that calmness of me inside me at this moment as a teacher, that got translated into all of you who watched and listened to this episode. That's why you don't require physical contact to manage your charges. So if more of you are together, then a lot of you will become positive, and that charge will be little charge to start with, because you're not, remember, you're not yet taking big steps in life, but you'll be positively charged after listening to this video. Relax, calm, and that little charge you can do more work in your life. Thank you once more for your time, energy, and emotions that you invested for the last 40 minutes in listening to me and taking notes of this lecture. I appreciate your dedication for learning. That's all for today's episode. Thank you. Have a great day. Again, we will meet tomorrow with another lesson in the subject of relationship, and I hope that I can handhold you to a better life. Those of you who are really manly and who wants to understand the world better, you can check out my book, Intimacy Lost for Men, The Birth of Lugal, the first volume, from Amazon, or you can help a small startup to become independent. In the description below and in the first comment, you have the link to pre-order the book, the printed version of the book. Kindly pre-order. It's under printing and will send you very soon. So that's all from me, from Rupam here. Thank you. Have a great day.